everybody. I'm Amy Zawi with CAMERA's Partnership of Christians and Jews. CAMERA stands for the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis. And today I have returning to our platform Paul Calvert of Bethlehem Voice. Paul lives in the Bethlehem area within Judea and Samaria, and he has a firsthand account of what is going on in the region amongst the different peoples, including the Arabs, Christians, Muslims, Jews, Druze, everyone. And we want to bring him on today to really give us an accurate account of what's going on in Bethlehem during this Christmas and Advent season, because much of the news we are seeing is the suffering of the people, which is completely valid and real, but we're not necessarily getting the truth about what the cause of that problem is, and therefore no avenue for solutions. So Paul, we are happy to have you back. We always appreciate your insights, your firsthand investigative insights, as you are a journalist. Your show, Bethlehem Voice, is something I follow closely. Your guests are extremely informative and unique. And I want you to give us an update in the last couple of weeks since we last talked about what's happening in Bethlehem now that we are in Advent and approaching Christmas. And you mentioned to me in the pre-show about the 3 different Christmases. Maybe you can also explain that as well, based on the population that lives in the region.
Yes, well, first of all, happy Christmas from Bethlehem, the place where Jesus was born, a very, very important city, and a city that was prophesied in the Bible, that it said that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem from a Jew, and he would be a baby boy. And those things are very, very important for us. Today, in the light of everything that's political and everything that's coming about, that, oh, Jesus was a Palestinian, it is that time of the year where that comes out again, that says Jesus was a Palestinian. No, he was a Jew, and he was born in Bethlehem of Judea. So that's very, very important that we get that straight. Because if we don't get that straight, then it's going to cause a lot of problems in our theology. I'm here in Bethlehem. I'm actually about 5 minutes away from where Jesus was born. So I'm very, very close to Manger Square. And Christmas is a wonderful time of the year. I've always loved Christmas. And here in Bethlehem, we actually have 3 Christmases. So we have on the 24th, they celebrate the Latin Christmas, and of course, 25th is the actual Christmas itself. And then there's the Greek Orthodox Christmas, which is celebrated on the 7th of January. And then on the 19th of January, we have the Armenian Christmas, because we have quite a number of Armenians that have came here into the land. So it's a very, very big celebration. Christmas is always very great and a very exciting time. At the moment, it is a little bit sad and it is a little bit difficult. I done an interview with the mayor last week, and I asked him, is Christmas cancelled? And he actually said no. And I was quite surprised about that, because I was expecting him to say, yeah, this is cancelled, this is cancelled. And he didn't. He said, no, Christmas itself isn't cancelled. People, Christians in Bethlehem, will celebrate Christmas. But what is cancelled are the festivities. So there won't be the festivities like we normally have. So usually the first week in December is the lighting of the Bethlehem Christmas tree. And it is a great celebration. You have so many people come into Manger Square. People come from all over, and they come and celebrate. And they have the mayor doing his speech, and they have choirs from around the world. And then the prime minister has came and lit the Christmas tree, the prime minister of the Palestinian Authority, and he's lit the Christmas tree. Nothing this There's no Christmas tree in Bethlehem, so it's very sad. There's no lights at all. We usually have great lights, and when the Christmas tree's been lit, all the fireworks go off in a display. There's often a parade as well that goes through Bethlehem. So you'll have all these vehicles which are dressed up. You've got the Nutcracker Suite. You've got the Mary and Joseph on a display, driving all the way from Bejala to Bethlehem to Bethsahar. It's a wonderful thing to see, and all the children to see. And then something else that got started was 4x4 vehicles driving through the city and giving out candies and things like this. But none of that's going to be taking place this year, which is very, very sad. And it is very, very sad. And the whole situation in Bethlehem is very, very sad. Economically, it's very, very difficult. Tourism is down. Of course, because of the situation when so people have been pushed into poverty. There's about a 47 and 48% unemployment rate, which is really, really hard and really, really tough. Also, as well, many people used to work in Israel. So they lived in Bethlehem, where Bethlehem's really cheap. And they had the best of both worlds because they were paying their own personal low wages in Bethlehem, but then they were going to work in Israel and they were getting a high Israeli wage and bringing that back into Bethlehem. So some people could actually live in Kings working in Israel, but then coming back to Bethlehem. So that's all, a lot of that has been stopped. There are workers going into Israel, but not everybody is able to go into Israel. So some people are getting permissions. And as we talk about permissions as well, one thing that's been fantastic this year is Palestinian Christians have been given permission for 1 week to go into Israel. And that is sort of the way that I see it, that's Israel sort of being very much like, we're going to trust you on this, because obviously when October the 7th happened, any people that were coming out of Gaza and working into Israel were spying on Israel, going back into Gaza and telling them there's this here, there's this here, there's a security guard here, there's this here. So when you come and attack, you'll know exactly where you're going. Well, Israel is allowing the Christian community to go into Israel. And of course, we know the Christian community are very good. They don't do anything bad and they don't particularly do anything wrong. So that's one thing that's been very exciting. My best friend, I took him into Jerusalem last week and we just spent the day in Jerusalem with him and his sister, went to see some of the religious sites, then went into West Jerusalem, and we had a great day. And his mother's just gone in yesterday. And then my friend, of course, he went to the zoo on Friday. Jerusalem has a wonderful biblical zoo. So he was able to go and visit that. So he had 1 week's permission. So I'm really pleased that they had 1 week's permission to be able to go and do that. But the situation, the economic situation, is very, very difficult indeed. And we've got to ask ourselves why. Well, it all stems from October the 7th. You know, this war that took place stems from October the 7th. We've never really had peace. Things were quiet until October the 7th. And October the 7th destroyed absolutely everything. So why are Palestinians suffering in Bethlehem today? It's because of Hamas. Now, it's because of what Hamas done in Gaza, coming out of Gaza, killing over 1,200 Israelis. That is the reason why Palestinians in Bethlehem are suffering today. That is the reason why the checkpoint has been closed off for many people, that you can't go work. The whole war situation, people don't want to come to a war zone. That's the reason why tourism is down and the unemployment rate is about 47, 48%. And many families are living below the poverty line. And the reason, again, is because of what happened on October the 7th. And we need to stress that, because that is the real reason. You know, things were good before then. Bethlehem was recovering from COVID. COVID was a very, very hard time. They were recovering from COVID because that destroyed, again, the tourist industry. And Bethlehem is predominantly built on the tourism industry. So you've got the hotels that have been affected. You've got the taxi drivers that have been affected. All the restaurants from when people stay in Bethlehem, oh, let's go and have a shawarma, let's have a cup of coffee. All those places have been affected as well. And it all stems from October the 7th, that what Hamas did has actually really caused great trouble on the Palestinian community of Bethlehem as well.
I'm glad you brought that up, Paul, because the news that we see here in the West in our mainstream, if it covers the issues or the conditions or the happenings in Bethlehem at all, it always paints that suffering as its causation of the Israeli occupation or the war, Israel's war. It never, I mean, I've read multiple articles out of Reuters and other places, even some of those it pushed in Christian news curation emails like Christianity Today, where they push out other articles where they frame this whole situation, never mentioning the terrorists or the PA and the pressure and the Muslim rule, so to speak, or the already existing oppression on Christians, Christian Arabs from Muslim Arabs. all of that is just not even mentioned. It's omitted. And everything that's happening today, from the economic crisis because of the security issues and the checkpoints and the lack of movement, to the general sense of, well, there's no tourists here. The articles always, either overtly or backhandedly, in a passive voice sort of way, blame Israel, the occupation,
Something
Israel
we
war.
something
And
we always hear
yeah, and we
is
need
how
to make sure the record is straight.
Yeah, something we always hear is about how the Gaza population are being told to move from this area to another area because of Israel's going to come in and do this and do that. But what we don't really hear about is how the Israeli communities have to move from the Gaza border community for a
Yeah.
long time, and also as
And the
well the people in the north of Israel, when Lebanon have been firing rockets within the Galilee, the Tiberias area, they've had to flee down into central Israel. So when they are fleeing, they're leaving their schools, they're leaving their jobs, they're leaving absolutely everything. Thankfully, a lot of people in the Gaza border communities have actually been able to go back again. I'm not sure what's happening with Lebanon at the moment.
yeah.
Obviously, we have a peace deal. I don't know whether people have felt comfortable enough to go back up to the north, but we've got to remember it's not just Palestinian refugees. It's also Israeli refugees in their own country having to leave their own areas and go into more central Israel because of the situation.
Yeah, you hear about those quote displaced populations unquote, and they're real, but you're right. Our media never mentions the displaced populations in Israel, and all of this press and all of this funding for those aid for the displaced populations in other places. Obviously, Gaza being one that hits the news and gets probably disproportionate amount of money. I don't see the UN or other organizations helping fund the displaced populations in Israel. I think Israel takes care of its own in that regard. I want to touch back on something you mentioned when you talked to the mayor of Bethlehem. I mean, definitely he has to walk a fine line to make sure he's not offending any of the powers that be. But the you mentioned this to me in the pre-show as well. The mayor of Bethlehem is Christian, but you also mentioned that the mayor's role has to be held by a Christian. Is
Yes,
that
that's true. Yeah. All the mayors of Bethlehem have been Christian, and it is the law that the mayor has to be a Christian, which is very good. And that's what you really need in this particular situation.
Mhm.
Bethlehem is like the Christian capital of the whole world. So you need a mayor who understands the feelings from the Christian community, not just in Bethlehem, but from all around the world as well. So it is the law that the mayor of Bethlehem has to be a Christian. And
And
that's
and
very, very
that law
important.
was created by the Palestinian Authority. It's their law, correct?
I think that's correct. I think it was Mahmoud Abbas. No, I think it was Yasser Arafat, if I remember right, that
Wow.
actually made that and stipulated that as a law. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Now, when you talked about like last year in Bethlehem, the first Christmas after October 7th, there was the very political Jesus in the Rubble display that was put together by Munther Isaac of Bethlehem Bible College, a very outspoken proponent of a theory that Jesus is Palestinian, which we know it doesn't match the Bible or the historical record. And now this year, you said the festivities are largely canceled. Where is that cancellation coming from? Is that organic from the Christians? They're fed up, they're sad, or is that some sort of pressure from the PA? What is the reason for that lack of overt festivities during the season?
Don't know who exactly is cancelling everything, but what I would say it's coming from a political element. So it will be the mayor saying, right, we can't have the Christmas tree up this year. We have to cancel this and we have to cancel that. So I would presume and I would suggest that it's actually coming from the mayor's office rather than the
Okay.
scout saying, well, we're not going to go through with the music anymore. Because usually on the 24th of December, the patriarch comes from Jerusalem into Bethlehem, right into Manger Square, and the scouts lead him into Bethlehem, and they play all their musical instruments. So they have their drums and their bagpipes and saxophones and everything, and all the different scout troops from all around the area, they come and they lead him into Bethlehem. Well, last year was very different. They had no music whatsoever, and they just had the scouts marching in with banners, all in Arabic. So I'm presuming they were stop the war and, stop the fighting and all this sort of things, bringing these in. And the mayor basically said, I think that's going to be very much similar again this year, which is very sad because, I feel there needs to be some hope in Bethlehem. So Christians, celebrate your Christmas and celebrate, because you just need to have a bit of hope, because you've had a whole year. Yes, the Palestinians are suffering. Yes, the Palestinians are going through a difficult time, and particularly the Christian community. The Christian community goes through a very hard time because they feel like they're in the middle of everything, especially the evangelical Christians, because they feel the Jews don't like them. They feel the Muslims don't like them. And then even some evangelical Christians don't like them. And Orthodox Christians don't like them because they feel, well, the evangelical Christians are a cult. So we don't want you marrying our sons and daughters. We don't want you going off to the evangelical church. And there can be a lot of pressure on the Christian community when it comes to the evangelical church. Last year, we also had the Jesus in the Rubble. There was actually two Jesus in the Rubble. So Munther Isaac had done one in his church, but then the municipality done a big one right in Manger Square, and they done a Jesus in the Rubble. They commissioned an artist to do it, and he done that. And what I hear was many Christians were actually very upset about that they put Jesus in the rubble.
Yeah.
Jesus isn't in the rubble. Munther Isaac, he said, if Jesus was born today, he'd be born in Gaza under the rubble. Absolute rubbish. Jesus would not be born in Gaza. The Bible clearly states that Jesus would be born in Bethlehem. Now, I don't believe that Munther Isaac is starting a new theology here, but I think what he's doing is playing loose with theology to try and be anti-Israel. And that's what he's doing. He's attacking Israel. Jesus wouldn't be born in Gaza. Now, if it said if Jesus was to visit Gaza today, he would be under the rubble. Well, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But at the same time, I could also say, well, if Jesus was born today, he would be a hostage in Gaza, or he'd be in a cage in Gaza, And I can play this any way I want.
Right.
If we want to put Jesus in the rubble in Bethlehem, well, can't we put Jesus in the rubble in Kfar Aza, where the terrorists came, where Hamas came? Can we not have a burnt Jesus where he's all burnt because they set fire to people's houses? Can we not do it in Ukraine, for instance, and put Jesus in Ukraine because Russia is attacking Ukraine? So, it's been politically minded, and I don't think we should be playing politics with Jesus. Jesus is who he is. He was born in Bethlehem. He's not going to be born anywhere else. He was born as a Jew. He wasn't born in Palestine. Palestine came later. The name was changed. And I know that there's one preacher that would actually suggest that the name Palestinian, or Palestine rather, is anti-Semitic, because it was Caesar who was trying to hide and trying to get rid of all of the things to do with the Jewishness
identity
of this land, and he was trying to hide it. So there is a suggestion that it could be a very anti-Semitic name as well.
Yeah. That's a widely held theory and opinion that is valid enough if you study the initial reasoning for renaming the land in I guess it was about 130 something AD, so 100 years after Jesus's crucifixion. But Paul, your information and your insights into what's going on is so valuable to us because of our news reporting omitting so much important and needed context and even history, even understanding what Bethlehem was like before Christmas 2023. So we appreciate your time in coming on and reporting back to us what is really happening, and the sentiments and the fact that not everybody agrees on exactly what's going on, because you do have, like you said, the Orthodox and the evangelicals, and I'm sure there's even is there a Catholic element in Bethlehem at all?
Yes, we have Catholics, we have Greek Orthodox, we have the Orthodox Church, we have the Syriac or Syrian churches as well. So there's quite a lot of big mixture as well.
Yeah, yeah. So there's probably some brotherly or sibling rivalry or tensions there, even between Christian communities, as they all live under the PA and have to make sure that that they maintain their own peace and under sort of a Muslim rule, so to speak. But I mean, Bethlehem is on all our hearts. Bethlehem is on all in all of our songs that we're singing like recently, you know, at church and on the radio. The Christmas tunes are flowing, and you hear about you hear the story of Christmas in many of those songs and hymns. And I want the Christian community in Europe and North America to understand that don't get sucked into these political nativity scenes and the omission in many of the mainstream news reportings. And Paul, it's you and other contacts we have in Israel that's so important, because we need truth, and we need to battle this war on truth that's out there in our media anyway, in Europe and North America.
Yeah, it very much is a media war at the moment, and that's what I feel that I'm not fighting a physical war. The Israeli soldiers are doing that, but I'm fighting a media war as to getting truth out there, and people need to look for the truth, and the
Exactly.
truth will set us free.
It will. And
Do pray for Bethlehem.
yeah, we're going to pray for
Do pray for
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem today. Yeah,
All of the
because
people, even
the
the
Christian community is leaving. The Christian community is leaving, so Bethlehem as a Christian city is getting smaller and smaller and decreasing as a Christian city. And that's very, very sad when you think of this is the place where Jesus was born, where Jesus came. It should be full of Christians, but
yeah,
the Christian communities are leaving. And will they come back? We don't know. We don't know if they're going to come back. And that's very, very sad indeed, that people have just felt so depressed, so down, so fed up economically that they've gone to somewhere else. And probably that will attract them and they'll never come back again. So, and that means that the Muslim community becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, and the Christian community gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And I just think that's really, really sad. So do pray for the Christian community here, that God will just bless them and touch them. They may have yeah, we're Palestinian, but they still need our prayers and our thoughts during this time.
definitely. Absolutely, absolutely. And we continue to pray for the leadership, all the leaderships, including Israeli leadership, that they have providence and guidance and strength, and the hostages that still remain in Gaza, and the general security of all the peoples. Everybody's suffering with this terrorist bent that just has been there for decades and came to fruition on the 7th of October. And now 14, 15 months later, Israel is still managing attacks on 7 fronts plus the PR war. So 8 fronts, basically. Paul, thank you so much again. We'd love to have you back in January, and we can hear more about what's going on, especially as other issues flush out in the region, including Syria and what's happening there. Hear how that affects your local community, if at all. Have a happy Christmas and a happy New Year as well. And the whole community will stay in our prayers. And again, we appreciate you being a source of truth, of investigative reporting, where you're looking at everything just fairly and objectively. And we really appreciate that.
No, happy Christmas to you, and happy Christmas to everybody who's watching as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great week. Shavua Tov.
Thank you.